Also find reports of town police. Will. Will. I mean, you're lying to people. It's integrity. Where am I at? Hey, you need all the help you can get. Well, you know, Yes. So you probably stand a little bit.
Good evening. Good evening. We're going to start in 1 minute. If I can please have your attention. Good evening and welcome to Town Hall. My name is Gina Inguanzo. I know many of you. I'm a resident and I've been working for the town for 10 years. I'm the town clerk and the supervisor of elections. I welcome you all this evening because we're going to be having an event that for me, I take a lot of pride. We put a lot of love and teamwork to make this a good educational forum debate. And it is for the candidates that are running for office for this November election. So I welcome all of you, the invitees, the family, the friends, and of course the candidates. In particular, I want to start by saying thank you to the mayor and to the council members for their support. Every 2 years during the election cycle, we have this debate. And I also want to say thank you to the town manager, Mr. Edward Peterman, and to town staff. Particular town staff, I worked hand in hand with the communications department. So I do want to say thank you in particular to Ms. Claricel de Cardenas, the director of communications, and her wonderful staff, Ms. Ail Pastora, Mr. Jonathan Gill, and Mr. Jacob Marin. For their assistance, they were the ones who helped me with the flyer, with the distribution of the social media. I also want to thank the deputy town clerk, Ms. Victoria Martinez. She's assisting me in everything and try to make this a very good debate forum. I want to say thank you to the deputy town attorney, Lorenzo Coviela, as well, gathering information and preparing us for a good high-class debate. And I want to say thank you to Ms. Rosa Marrero, our right-hand assistant to the manager, who's always a team player and always helping us with every little detail. As I mentioned earlier, every 2 years we have an election, and during this election cycle, the town always likes to provide all the citizens with greater opportunities to become better informed about the candidates that are running for office. We are happy to provide this venue again for this wonderful debate. Also, we are providing this via live streaming for those of you that are not able to come with us and want to watch from home. The format and the questions of this forum, of this debate, have been handled completely by the moderator. No one in town hall, and that includes me, is aware of the questions that the moderator will be asking this evening. And lastly, I want to thank from all my heart the moderator, Mr. Alex Penelas, who, as you all know, is a resident, is a high-class politician, public servant, neighbor, engaged with the community. And I am honored to have him here. And I am honored to say that I consider you a friend and your beautiful family. So thank you again for graciously accepting to host this debate. And now, without further ado, Councilman Fernandez, can you please have some words to introduce the moderator?
Thank you, Gina. So on behalf of the mayor and the town council, thank you guys for coming out today. Wanted to share two things with you guys. First and foremost, we're a community made up mostly of immigrants, a lot of Cuban exiles, and I believe we're fortunate to be in this building today to exercise one of the greatest examples of democracy that you will ever see. Local government is, in my opinion, the purest form of government, and we are here to witness candidates that are willing to sacrifice their personal time and their personal lives to serve our community. And I think that is one of the most wonderful, wonderful blessings that we can have. I want to thank all of the candidates for making that commitment to serve. So not every community in South Florida does this. I think this is something very unique to the town of Miami Lakes, where we're able to embrace this process and bring our residents, give all of the candidates a platform on which to speak, and give our residents a very transparent look at all of the candidates that they will have on their ballot. While before I hand it off to our moderator, I want to explain the reason that I'm up here and I was chosen. I had the best and most memorable soundbite of the last debate. That's why I earned the honor to come up and introduce our great moderator, Mayor Alex Penelas.
Tony, thank you very much, Mr. Council Member. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. As a proud resident of the town of Miami Lakes, I want to thank the mayor, the council members, the clerk, the legal department, the manager, for this incredible privilege to preside and moderate tonight's debate. As the council member mentioned, there's no greater form of democracy then the ability in a civilized and appropriate fashion to debate the issues, to talk about the pros and the cons, to give people your rationale for how you feel about issues, and then let the voters decide. They have the ultimate word. And that's exactly what will happen here in the town of Miami Lakes on November 8th. An election which, unfortunately, for many, gets predominated by other races, by other issues. You've got gubernatorial race, you have senatorial races, you have so many other issues, ballot questions on the ballot. Yet that government that is the closest to you, that government that most impacts your life on a day-to-day basis, will also be on the ballot. It will also be on the ballot. And that's why it's very, very important for all eligible voters in Miami Lakes to be educated about the candidates. I know they've worked hard. Many of them have already knocked on my door. I'm beginning to receive the mailers. The interviews are appearing in the newspapers. So folks are starting to focus on this election, as it should be. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to probe a little bit deeper. We're going to get a little bit deeper into who the candidates are and how they feel about issues that directly impact Miami Lakes. But that doesn't mean we won't talk about other issues as well, okay? Because it's important for voters to know how you feel on a whole range of issues. And the way we're going to go about this tonight is we're going to have two panels. We have a total of 7 candidates, right? We have an open seat, which is council seat number 2. We have 3 candidates in that particular seat, and that's going to be our second panel. So I'm going to invite those 3 candidates to come up after the first panel. The first panel will be made up of candidates running in seat 4 and seat 6. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to introduce them, and I'm going to ask them to please come up and take their seat. In council seat number 4, we have the incumbent, Josh Diegues. I believe he's here. I saw him earlier. And the challenger, Miguel Comsana. For council seat number 6, the incumbent is Carlos Alvarez. And the second candidate in council seat 6 is Angelo Garcia Cuadra. Angelo's here. As they take their seats, let me lay out a few disclosures to be totally open and transparent. As a resident of this town, I know many of the candidates. I know the incumbent council members, and I participate in the process. Again, to be totally transparent, 2 years ago, I did contribute to the political committee of Mr. Diegues. Want to make that totally clear. And I have a sign of his in my front yard, Mr. Comsana. That doesn't mean I'm going to let him off the hook tonight. Okay, trust me. He will be asked his share of fair questions. Also, as the city clerk mentioned, the only information I received from the town is public information, ordinances, voting records. I did not ask for questions from the town. I did ask for clarification on issues from the city attorney's office, but at no time were questions submitted to me by the town. However, we did provide an opportunity for members of the public to submit questions, and those came directly to me. They were not in any way screened by the town. They came directly to me. And for those of you who submitted questions, you will notice that I have incorporated some of those issues and themes in the questions I will be proposing to the candidates today. The idea here is to go about an hour or so for each panel. So it's roughly 6:45 now. We'll go roughly an hour with this panel, We'll dismiss them and then ask the other candidates to come up. Let me talk a little bit about the format. For those of you who participated in debates that I've moderated in the past, it's a little bit different. It's not a formal setting in the sense that each candidate will have a certain number of seconds or minutes to respond to questions. Quite to the contrary, I will pose issues and questions and reserve the right to follow up as necessary. I may ask the same candidate several questions consecutively. I may skip between races, and I may not necessarily ask all candidates the same questions. So you kind of have to be on your toes at all times because I could call on any of you at any time. But I want this to be a discussion, a lively discussion. I want it to be probing. And I'll try to be fair and make sure that at the end, everybody has approximately the same amount of time and if at any time, by the way, you feel that you need to add something or interject, please raise your hand and I'll be more than happy to accommodate. One last caveat to the audience. Let's please be respectful. There's no jeering, there's no booing, there's no clapping. I'll give you an opportunity now, if you'd like, to welcome the candidates. Let's clap for them now. And certainly at the end, we'll be more than happy to thank the candidates for their participation. Any questions on the format? You guys ready to go? So let's start with some, maybe some, if you want to call them opening statements or comments by the candidates. And I'd like to start with the new candidates, Mr. Comsana, Mr. Garcia. Maybe they could tell us a little bit about themselves, introduce yourselves to the voters of the town of Miami Lakes, and tell us why you're running. Mr. Comsana. Get a little closer to the mic.
Hello? Yes. So as I was saying that I moved here roughly 4 years ago and I started a little restaurant here called Italy Today, and I met a lot of people day in, day out. And funny enough, 4 years ago, that's how I met Josh, sitting down at the bar there the day he came to run, and inspired me to run for the city because it was an idea of how to help the community and just hearing people's stories and just what can be done to get this place better, and just what I can do to make it a better place. It's already amazing, but what can I continue to make it grow? And funny enough, Josh inspired me with that. And funny enough, now I'm here 4 years later running against him. And like I said, I live in Celebration Point, and I became a director on my HOA, and I wanted to make my community the value of our properties go. I want to make it stay beautiful. I want the nature of it all. I wanted to watch it grow, and I helped them, whether it was small stuff, but that's what we're here for. Whether it was for building small asphalt pathways around the lake, or
Let me ask you, what do you think the most pressing problem is in the town right now?
right now, one of the big issues that I see, there's multiple, but one of them has been the blasting. I know it's affecting a lot of the homes, and it's causing cracks throughout the walls of regular.
We're gonna get to that.
Yes.
Mr. Garcia.
Hi, my name is Angelo Cuadra Garcia. I actually see a lot of faces here that I recognize. Thank you all for being here. I moved to this town 23 years ago. Actually, me and my wife were looking for our dream home, and we found a place here. We saw it on the paper, and I said to my wife, "Well, let's look at this one and let's go to Pembroke Pines and compare it." We did that. Well, we shopped. To make a long story short, we shopped for about 40 different homes, and we finally said, "This is the place that we want to call home." But ever since, I've been hearing that word, quality of life. And I've been very worried about that quality of life. And we'll talk about that in our moving forward. But, you know, we need. to-
Quality of life is
Yeah,
your
Quality
main
of
issue.
life, I mean, quality of life ain't having all this traffic. Quality of life ain't, raising every time there's something new and an idea to keep raising somebody's taxes. Those are not quality of
We're
life.
going to talk about that. Mr. Alvarez, you were elected 4 years ago. As you look back at your first term, any regrets?
No, I think much to celebrate. I think this council elected 4 years ago accomplished the hiring of a town manager. We stayed true to our vision and mission with projects that came online, all the way from addressing drainage issues town-wide, securing funding for the third stage of the Canal Bank stabilization, continuing to work on infrastructure projects, sidewalk repairs, cul-de-sac improvements, branding of entrances, enhancing mobility, bringing the scooters, bringing the bicycles, increasing the freebies as well. So, and that's just to name a few. I feel that I wanted to do another 4 years because there's still a lot of work left undone. I'm excited about the golf course project. We're excited of bringing an emergency room, a Baptist ER, to Miami Lakes, so our residents do not have to travel far to receive that type of healthcare. And another initiatives that we have, I know the Optimist is on the ballot as well. So I think there's much to celebrate, but I think this council, we still got some work to do.
Excellent. Mr. Dieguez, you were elected 4 years ago as well, and part of this group that Mr. Alvarez mentioned. Anything you're looking to do maybe differently in your second term if you're reelected?
To be honest with you, Alex, no, I think like the council member said, we've been on a roll here. And especially, I'm very proud of the relationships over the 4 years that I've been on this dais. I think there's a reason why I enjoy the support, the broad support of all my colleagues, because I'm a very pragmatic person. I work, I listen to them. I try to iron out differences. Just today, I was meeting with Vice Mayor Rodriguez to go over what his concerns were with the town attorney's contract, which you may be aware we're in the process of discussing about renewal. Last week, I met with Councilwoman Verano and Councilman Collazo to discuss their points of concern for the town manager's contract and also the town attorney's contract. So I think that the approach that I bring to the table is exactly what we need. It's pragmatic. It's driven results for the community. And again, even when things have sometimes gotten contentious, I've been able to maintain those relationships and use that in a productive manner for the benefit of our residents.
Let me ask you, the mayor's term is up in 2 years. And obviously, there's a lot of speculation as to who may run for mayor in 2 years. If you're reelected next month, would you commit here tonight to serve your full 4-year term?
I'm all about transparency, Alex. And the truth is, no, I cannot say that I would not take a look at resigning to run for the mayor's position.
Mr. Alvarez, some have commented to me that you've not been very visible on the campaign trail. In fact, your opponent has outraised you significantly. As of the last campaign finance report, you have 0 expenditures. In fact, I also noticed that the Miami Lakers stated just this Friday that you failed to respond on time to their questionnaire. Have you lost interest in this campaign, or are you fully committed?
No, I'm fully committed. And, I think one of the biggest challenges in life for anyone, when you're involved in a lot of things, you want to make sure that you give your all to everything that you do. For those of you that know me, I'm a principal of a high-performing school and called Cohia Career and Collegiate Academy, and we opened up some of those charter schools in Colorado and Vegas. So we're serving children and teachers and staff across the country. And I'm the board chair and president of Pinecrest Academy Inc. Schools, which is the 3rd largest network of schools that Academica serves. So I may be a little bit late in the game, but my heart is in it. I did have the choice, and Mayor, to be quite frankly, if I didn't want to do this, I would have not done it. And what my heart told me is that there's still a lot of unfinished business. I think like to the point that Council Member Dieguez brought up, we've done a lot of work, but there's still a lot of projects that we want to see through. I make sure that, I attend the council meetings. If I leave early, again, I might be grabbing a flight to Colorado, but it's to serve, whether it's serving in Miami Lakes or it's serving in Hialeah or serving in Milliken, Colorado, or serving in North Las Vegas, my priority is to serve not only our town, but students and teachers and staff across the country.
Mr. Garcia, in that same article from the Laker, you said that your opponent was an absent leader, quote unquote. What did you mean by that?
This is what I mean about that. I'll leave that this is a graph that actually any third grader can actually read. So this is my opponent's 4 years track record. So I will leave it to so you guys could see it. All 4 years are there. The graphs are there. So if you all want to see it later and come take a closer look at it, let me know.
Now, I guess what you're alleging is that your opponent, the incumbent, has not been present to vote on matters that are important for the town. Is that what you're saying?
No, Mr. Pinellas, you got to come to work.
Yes or no? Is that what you're alleging?
I am a legend.
Miami-Dade County election department records indicate that you, sir, did not vote in this year's primary in August. So you're alleging that your opponent doesn't come here to work. You didn't even show up to vote a few weeks ago during the election when there were important issues. So how can you criticize him for being absent when you yourself have been absent
Absent on,
on voting? You did not go to vote on August 23rd. You did not participate in that election.
Mr. Pinellas, I have I know it's not an
Please speak
excuse.
into the mic.
I have a 94-year-old mother that is very sick. And I'm still giving everything I've got. I'm not making my 94-year-old mother an excuse, but I've been,
So you're saying that during 2 weeks of early voting with a month worth of mail ballots available and election day, you could not find a moment to vote in an election which included senatorial primaries, gubernatorial primaries, a local school board race, yet you're going to criticize your opponent for not showing up here. I just want to know, you couldn't find the time.
I'm going to.
Mr. Komsana, you also didn't find the time to vote August 23rd. Why should the voters of the town of Miami Lakes go out and vote for you if you don't take the time to vote on issues that are important for this community?
For the, what year? You're
This
saying?
year, August 23rd, you did not participate in that primary.
Truthfully, I didn't know. I'm trying to get more into the community, and that's why I am starting to give back. And if I would have known, I really would have voted. I do vote every 2 years. And that's why I'm trying to get back into the council or get into the city and see what the issues are, because I want to give back. I've been living here, and I do apologize for not voting, because if I did have the chance, I would have, truthfully.
I think several of you mentioned the appointment of the new town manager. And I wanted to refer to some comments that were made by the mayor. He was quoted on August 4th in the Miami Laker as saying the following. Again, he was referring to the discussion of whether to extend the manager's contract. And the Mayor Sid said, "I don't think there is a need to extend this. I'm not in favor of extending the manager's contract even 5 months." He went on to say of the manager, "Our current manager could be out on vacation for an entire year, and our town keeps moving forward, sometimes even faster and more efficient." Mr. Alvarez, do you agree with those statements by the mayor?
Mayor, I think we could do more. And I think competition is good. Obviously, this is an example of it here today. I think we could do more. I think we should open the doors and see what the competition and what other applicants may come in. I have a working relationship with the manager, but I have my opinions on the relationships that he's built with the council and the mayor the last 4 years. And to the point of the mayor, I do have some concerns with extended leave time and stuff like that. If I'm juggling 4 or 5 things, and this is the only priority that somebody has, then I would definitely want to see it at a high level. And obviously, it does arise some concerns, some of the staffing issues that we've seen here in the last 4 years. And, you know, high position areas, directors, so forth. So,
So to your opponent's point, you were absent during this discussion on September 13th. During that discussion, Mr. Fernandez had proposed a 5-month extension to allow new council members an opportunity to chime in on whether to extend the manager's contract. Mr. Dieguez proposed a 4-year extension, which prevailed with a 4-2 vote. During that discussion, Mr. Dieguez, I quote the minutes of the meeting. You explained that the discord, you use the word discord, that is taking place on the dais is permeating the political world outside our town, and that's adverse to our interest. What did you mean by that?
The mayor was gracious enough to appoint me as the town's representative to the Miami-Dade County League of Cities, which is an organization, for those who don't know, that advocates on our town's interests, since we are members, and other cities' interests in front of the county in particular, as well as other entities. So as part of that process, I typically meet a lot of other town managers and a lot of other town attorneys that are, you know, of course, serving their own respective municipalities. And they all were asking me, what is going on in your town? So it was the longer that we let this question linger, the problem becomes that even if we wanted to go in a different direction and find somebody else, nobody's going to want to work here because they're seeing what's going on with the council and the staff, especially the leadership, and they don't want to jump into that hot potato, into that mess. So for me, it was best to put it to bed and get it resolved. And the reality is that whatever the problems are between the mayor and the manager, at least with myself and clearly 3 other colleagues of mine, we all felt that he has delivered on the council priorities, which is ultimately where the creative genius, if you will, and all the policy decisions flow from, not from some rock star manager that if that person is, you know, out there in front of the camera too much, I think that's really more a politician in disguise. So really it's up to us to be able to set the direction and to find somebody that is capable of executing. And I think Ed Peterman is that person, which is why I decided to go ahead and ask for a longer term extension, because I think he earned it. And again, clearly the majority of the council felt that he did too.
Mr. Campsano, do you agree with that 4-year extension? Do you think as a potential new council member that you should be given the opportunity to have chime in on Mr. Peterman's performance?
Sorry. Hello? Oh, yes. And so I wouldn't know his behaviors or how the work he's done. So I can't say whether I agree or not because I don't know what work's been done.
Mr. Garcia, same question to you. Should you have been given an opportunity to assess the performance of the manager? And what do you think of the job he's doing?
Mr. Mayor, it's a big topic. You know, we probably won't have enough time right now to talk about
Well,
it.
we have a couple minutes now.
We had an opportunity when that opportunity came to hire who we thought was the best candidate for that position. And we, the people, didn't take that route, including the town council. There were some that had their mindset on who should have been our mayor at the time. I mean, our manager at the time. But I don't know the topic to the fullest, and I'd rather not comment on the issue of the manager. I'd like to reserve if that be permitted until
Okay. Fair
I
enough.
get some more information.
Fair enough. So one of the primary responsibilities of the manager, of course, is to present to the town council a budget for your consideration and for your approval. By law, there are 2 public hearings that are required. During the first public hearing, the council approved keeping the millage rate at the same level that existed for the last 5 years, I believe. Last week, during the second budget hearing, the council approved a millage rate a tad lower approximately 2% lower, but is still almost 7.5% higher, or will result in about 7.5% higher taxes for taxpayers here in Miami Lakes. My question to you, Mr. Dieguez, is how do you reconcile a vote on the budget, which includes a millage rate that will extract more dollars from taxpayers? How do you reconcile that with your campaign promise not to raise taxes? In fact, in your candidate statement that you filed with the town, you specifically mentioned that you were going to look for opportunities to reduce the tax burden on taxpayers. How do you reconcile the political statements during the campaign season with the actual voting as a council member?
Easy, Alex. Just like you said, my commitment was to look for ways to do so. And my record is very clear, whether it's pushing on the census to increase our share of state revenue sharing from that we get, which is population based, whether it's looking at leasing our town facilities like our poles and other actual facilities to 5G, or companies looking to build out the 5G network. It's a way of making some extra company. I'm always looking for different innovative ways to be less reliant on property taxes. But no matter how you slice it, right, the reality is that we have the 5th lowest tax rate out of 34 municipalities. Also, this is the first tax reduction in 5 years that we've done. And I'm in the next about 2 or 3 years, God willing, that we get 59th Avenue done, a bunch of money that is currently allocated for that project in the form of PTP money, the People's Transportation Plan money, will be freed up and will give us another opportunity to look at reducing it further. But of course, we have to be responsible. And the reality is that this community is one that is very heavy on, making sure we support our police and making sure that our neighborhoods are safe. The biggest driver of our budget is the police budget. And the increase that we were seeing this year was approximately about that 7% that we left on the table and that we're needing to rely on. Most residents do not want to defund the police. They're fine with making sure that the money, as long as it's wisely spent, goes to the appropriate
listen, I
place.
understand all that, but then why? I received this mailer actually today in my office. Then why do you say that politically now during the campaign that you're committed to lowering taxes? I mean, we need to be consistent. If what we say during the campaign needs to be reflected in the way you vote.
And it has, as I said, I just gave you at least 2 examples in which I have tried to increase revenue on other non-property tax related items. And a third one would be a potential limited annexation of certain commercial areas north of our town to, again, also do a further millage rate reduction. But the facts are the facts. Again, I'm always looking for other opportunities to lower that millage. That was my commitment. That's what I'm doing. I did not say definitively that I would, because especially that's campaign season. Those are people that want to overpromise and underdeliver. That's not me. I'm all about transparency. I'm not going to say something that I know I can't do. So, but again, the record speaks for itself, and I am continuing to work in that direction. And again, ultimately, last Tuesday, we took a vote to reduce property taxes in this town, period.
Mr. Alvarez, rent costs more money, gas, food, inflation. You got the bond issue on the ballot, the teachers' salary referendum. I mean, you voted for the budget. Is this the right time to raise taxes?
Mayor, one thing they taught me is try to leave things better than you found it, right? So when I was elected, the millage rate was higher than what it got approved for. So in my opinion, I think that's an improvement, and we left it better. Yes, there is inflation across our country, but I think this council, right? I think we worked through really a tough budget within the last 4 years, and one of the things that was a priority to me in our budget was increase policing, right? We wanted to add 1 to 2 additional police officers in our town. We didn't get that, but we were able to increase $50,000 worth of overtime. Obviously, one of the things that I'm concerned about is the bridge that opened and the traffic inflow that's coming in from there, and people from the Hialeah annexed area coming over to here. We're talking about obviously continued development here in the town and growth. We're talking about right now. They just took, and Angelo talked about where are the cows. I'm sure he'll bring it up again. Like now the cows that were by my house, they're going to develop their, residential and commercial space. So I'm proud of what Councilmember Dieguez and other council members of the mayor adopted, because I think, we left it better than what we found it 4 years ago.
Fair enough. Now, Mr. Garcia, as I'm sure you're well aware, anything other than the rollback rate, right? You roll back the millage rate, unless you roll it back sufficiently, it is a tax increase. Do you agree with this council and your opponent's decision to raise taxes?
Mr. Mayor, I have been seeing election after elections, councilmen after councilmen, and they all promise all kinds of things. I would like to start seeing councilmen start saying, we're going to do something and let's complete.
Question is, do you
So my-
agree? Do you
my-
agree with the vote on the budget or not,
Um,
specifically on the millage rate?
It's a great question. What I'm going to do, I have not specialized in the millage. But I am going to, we're on an open forum. I'm going to get back to you on
But yet
that
you told,
question.
but you, in your questionnaire
Well-
to the Miami Laker, you said you were in agreement with only a 2%
That is correct.
decrease. Okay, so
That is
then you're on the same page as your opponent. Let's be very clear.
So a 2%.
Okay,
That is correct.
Mr. Comsana, what do you feel
Yes.
about the budget? Have you studied the budget? Have you looked at it?
Not really. I do believe though that if lowering or raising, there has to be a balance on the taxes. I know right now during the times that we're in with the inflation, it's not the best right now to be raising it too high, but I do believe that we should be keeping it at a level where it keeps the police, keeps the firefighters, keeps everything funded to a certain degree where everyone's basically, I know that, can I say it? Not to increase it too much, but not to reduce the taxes too low. Because if you reduce it to, I mean, for me, to a certain level, if it just gets too low, we can't fund certain departments. And I believe that there should be a balance.
Should we be spending more on police, on fighting crime?
I've been hearing, and even in my community, about break-ins and trying to figure out ways how we can stop that. Whether it's paying for more police, or I believe we should be trying to find ways to deter the thefts, whether it's, and I've had ideas thinking about, and I've been researching and comparing to just hiring more police officers. I am for the police, but I believe we have to find other ways to deter these would-be criminals, like the break-ins in the car. One way that I was saying is to improve LED lighting. I was reading that in some of the safest neighborhoods, they have bright lights in these public areas, because normally in these dark, right here in front of the police station, where they were breaking into like 7 cars and stealing the airbags of cars, there's not heavy lighting. And if there was bigger LED lights or to brighten the area, it would deter criminals from stealing, because now they're in the spotlight compared to being in the shadows. And that's
Well,
what
I
it
think as you
is.
correctly stated, there has been concerns that we've had an uptick in crime in the town. I know my community, Loch Lomond's holding a hearing here on Wednesday about the issue. I think there was a bank robbery a couple of days ago as well in the town. Perhaps Mr. Alvarez, you and Mr. Diaz could address, do you feel that the crime issue was properly addressed in this budget document that you all just approved, Mr. Alvarez?
Look, would I settle for the 50,000? Is it better than what we had? Yes. Would I have preferred to have additional allocation of dollars for full-time police officers, 1 to 2? Yes, but I'll take the 50,000. And again, considering the density of Main Street, the revitalization of Main Street, you're talking about the golf course coming online soon, right? You're talking about the 170th bridge. You're talking about more development now on Commerce Parkway, right? So it's like, you don't want to be behind the ball. You want to get ahead of it, right? You don't want to put the cart before the donkey before the car. You want to put it, right, the cart before the donkey, or whatever it may be, but you want to stay ahead of the game, right? And look, I'm content. Let's just say the word is I'm content with the increase to policing. Obviously, I've been a big advocate from putting the light up pedestrian crosswalks on Fairway and on Monrose, and to coming up with an entire master plan of where we can put more pedestrian crosswalk, to being in full support of the public safety committees, putting signs everywhere, to drive like your children live here. Like public safety has always been one of my priority items. So yes, I am passionate about it. I'm content, but I would have liked to seen a little bit more in the staffing for police. This budget.
Mr. Dieguez, I believe the police major spoke at your budget hearings. Do you feel that his concerns were addressed?
Yes, it was the town major actually who advised us when he was asked point blank, do you need more officers? And he said, not at this time. So instead, what he proposed was an additional 75,000 to better address both speeding and also vehicular related burglaries in the town. So in order to accomplish this, that 75,000, what's going to cover the portion that's allocated for police overtime for this investigative unit on the vehicle related crimes. It's going to cover an additional 3 patrols for the next 26 weeks at various intervals to be able to see if they can interdict these criminals before they actually, commit their crime. However, of course, Miami Lakes is an affluent community. And, even though notwithstanding best efforts, it's going to be difficult, right? Because again, if we had gone the other way of hiring 2 additional officers, it would have been $160,000 per officer just in salary, not including all the other benefits. So again, to your earlier question about the rollback and whether that was possible, I think that right there, it shows the balance that we have to constantly strike. And this was the balance that the majority of the council chose at this time, and to see what happens, and we'll reassess in a few months.
Mr. Garcia, crime, what would you do to address it? Do you think the budget adequately addresses the needs in the town?
Well, basically, great question. I would leave whatever, and by the way, I'm pro-police, although I think I was a police officer in my past life. I would definitely sit down with our police major and take his advice, because that's why they're professionals. That's what they do. And whatever they advise, then we the council need to work with that, because that's what they went to school, and definitely will take their recommendations, and that'd be his recommendation. That's what I would leave at.
During the budget hearing, Council Member Dieguez's amendment included removing a merit and bonus for town employees. You also reduced the COLA adjustment to 5%. Now, originally there was going to be both, I believe, an 8% COLA and a bonus. Mr. Comsana, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about bonuses and cost of living adjustments for employees who serve the town?
I believe that should stay as it is, or have bonuses for the employees, because at the end of the day, I am one. I'm not. Funny enough, I was a business owner too, for a short term. I work now at a law firm, but I've worked in every industry you can imagine, restaurants, and it's the livelihood of the people, whether it's for just town hall workers. And the way that inflation is going, I believe that we should have those bonuses and benefits for them.
So my understanding though is that the bonuses were removed, correct?
Yes.
So the bonuses were removed. You're saying that the budget should have included
The bonuses,
COLAs
yes,
and bonuses.
yes.
Mr. Dieguez?
We made a decision, again, taking into account every factor, trying to balance the various competing interests that we have to, weigh every single year during budget season. We decided that a 5% cost of living adjustment combined with an increase in our contribution to the employee's retirement was sufficient for now, to reward them for their hard work. Whenever you read the surveys that the manager conducts every year, the environment at town hall it always receives very high marks. Of course, when you're employed by somebody, you have to, you're not just there just for the pay, you're also there for the type of job you're doing, and also for the people that you're doing it with. And, we're just saying, for this particular year, and a year when we're looking at a recession in a high inflationary environment, maybe a full cost of living adjustment was not appropriate, including a bonus program, but that is absolutely something we can revisit next year. It's not like just because it's gone today, that'll be gone forever.
Mr. Garcia, how do you feel about bonuses and cost of living adjustments for town employees?
Well, that's a great question. I work for a company that works for the government. And I've been there several years now, and I went to my bosses to see if they would give me the normal 3% raise. And actually, we're not even going to get a 3% raise. Actually, I was not here to get my feet wet on that situation. But if I was to make a decision, I'd like to see the raises given to the individuals that come to work and perform. And we have a lot of them here, but that's a pretty interesting question that I'm not an expert at the very moment.
So Alvarez, you run a business, you run a school, so you're faced with this issue, I'm sure, bonuses and cost of living adjustments. Do you feel that the town's current budget adequately addresses those concerns, that you'll avoid talented staff from leaving?
I would have entertained if the manager would have presented kind of a combination of COLA and merit pay, where staff are evaluated on a highly effective, satisfactory rating, and then you see different percentages of increases based on that. I wasn't in support of having a merit pay and a COLA, but since we did approve the 5%, I think one thing that I would encourage the manager to do moving forward is to come to us next year with kind of a different percentage based on, right, like a pay for performance kind of rating system, where someone that is a highly effective staff member, as per the evaluation tool that the manager uses here, may be subject to an 8% increase over someone that might be effective that might have a 5% increase. So something like that really didn't come to us. We've encouraged the manager to build a system based on performance, but maybe that's something that we can look at working for the next fiscal year to really recognize those highly effective staff members, but still be able to recognize effective staff member. And I think that motivates effective staff members to really work towards being kind of like at a highly effective status.
Fair enough. So one of the issues that voters here in the town will be facing is a bond issue for Optimus Park. The ballot question asks town voters whether to approve a 30-year issuance up to $19.5 million. Mr. Garcia, you've taken a very, very strong position against the bond issue. Your opponent has voted for the bond issue. Why are you opposed to this?
Very great question. I played ball on that part about 42 years ago. I don't know if our residents are aware that 42.6% of the mothers and fathers in this town that have children under the age of 18 are on food stamps. Did anybody know that? Public record. So here we are in a recession, gas prices, everything straight across the board. We have issues going on where we have people, individual residents, that are walking through their sidewalks and having issues trying to commute in their sidewalks. But I'm really lost on this one. We can't fix something that's got an issue where it's based on safety, but we're willing to spend bling money on fixing a park that doesn't belong to us. We have one, and the excuses all the time, oh, we need the park fixed. That's fine. I'm all for fixing the park. I'm all for it. But we don't need $19.9 million to fix an issue of drainage.
Okay, so we get it. You're against the bond issue. So what is your alternative? It's interesting because on September 24th, you posted this picture on Facebook, saying vote 247 against the bond. And ironically, you are standing in front of a flooded field. I think it's field 2. I've coached on that field many times. So it's great to be against it, but are you satisfied with the condition of the fields? And if not, what would you do differently?
Mr. Pinellas, if we go to the Royal Oaks Park, that does belong to the town, you know, it rains. It's normal that, you know, we are in a flood zone. So let me give you the answer to that. The key is to fix the drainage of the park. I don't know if you're aware.
How are you going to pay for it?
There you go. That's where I'm coming to. There are numerous entities that are willing to step up to the plate and help the issue. I've heard Verizon come up and say, hey, if they let me put a couple of antennas, we'll donate the money to fix the issue. The airlines that's here, we have a hub here, Lufthansa says, if you let me put the Lufthansa logo on the dugouts, I'll step up to the
So
plate.
your answer is naming rights.
But I've talked to several councilmen and they've told me, no, that's not what we want. We don't want to get their money. The park isn't ours anyways. So why not have somebody else come in and
So on that point, Mr. Alvarez, you voted to put this on the ballot. You've been a supporter. You mentioned it in your opening comments. Is it fair that only the taxpayers of Miami Lakes will be burdened with this mortgage for 30 years? The reality is that there's many children who play on those fields who don't reside anywhere near Miami Lakes, yet you're burdening for 30 years property owners in town. Is that fair?
It's funny. My opponent talks about quality of life here and trying to improve quality of life. And I don't think I'm in the position to stop a vote to go to the people on this park. I don't think that is my position as a government official. I think let the people speak. If the park does get passed and the people have spoken.
I understand, but you had the option of presenting the people with different versions. I saw a version recently, which is probably a quarter of the price, about $5.5 million, which would have provided a lot of the improvements that were necessary. Yet you voted to put this particular question before voters. How are you recommending that people vote on this?
Well, it's I see it as quality of life. I went with the third option. There were 4 options, Mayor, and the fourth one was more expensive. And then we were able to scale back on the third option. The second option didn't have parking. So we're going to increase density of the park and have more children, more parents there. There's not going to be enough space to park. So the third phase incorporated additional parking space for parents and children. And I was in full support. I'm in full support for it to go to you guys. You guys are the ultimate factor and deciding factor whether this passes or not. And that's
But
your
you're
choice.
recommending a yes vote.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Dieguez, you were against the item on first reading. You then switched your vote to a yes vote. What happened between first and second reading that gave you comfort with this item?
I think in essence, between first and second reading, as you saw, the vice mayor went ahead, spoke with staff, and was able to negotiate the price tag down from, I think it was 24 million at that point in time, down to 19.5 million. At that point, it was very close to the cost estimate of 18 million that we initially got from the town when they presented that third option. That was ultimately what we voted to study. And of course, accounting for inflation and the cost of materials increasing and whatnot, it seemed to be, I became more comfortable being able to submit it to the voters and letting them decide. And then whatever happens, happens. If it fails, incoming school board member Alonso has already indicated that he would work with us and trying to get more money out of the school board to help defray the cost of the park. I'm sure we can look at a smaller either bond or short-term loan, as we've done with other large projects in the past, and then also work with our state and federal partners as well to come up with the other pieces. If it passes in its current form, then of course I will work with my colleagues and with staff to try and continue to get that number lower in terms of what we ultimately need. I think it's important for people to realize that that is only borrowing authority to go up to that number. So we could actually come down even lower were it to pass. So I had enough
But are
comfort.
you recommending a yes or no vote?
I'm not making a recommendation. I myself do not plan to vote in favor of it. I don't have kids. I'm not planning to have kids anytime soon. For me, I'm not going to get any use out of it. And I think everyone out there needs to make their own decision about, if is this where they want their money to go? And they're going to use factors such as where they want their children to play. They're going to use their property values, the amount of taxes they're going to pay. They're going to use a variety of factors to decide their own self-interest as far as what they are comfortable with supporting. And so I'm not going to go out there campaign one way or the other. Not everyone that is supporting the park is trying to kick out Abuela to the curve. And not everybody that's also against the park is trying to take away our children's future. So I don't want to weigh in one way or the other. That's just my opinion where I stand. And I think everybody else needs to make up their own decision and their own mind. And as you know, there's a whole campaign going on. Text messages are going around. People are knocking on doors. And there's a campaign on both sides being waged for this. And the voters will decide this November.
Mr. Comsana, I'd love for you to weigh in a little bit on the bond issues. Probably one of the more fundamental questions facing Miami Lakes voters November 8th. Do you think this is the right time for this? A 30-year mortgage with everything else that's going on, inflation, gas prices, property values have gone up 12% in Dade County.
No.
Is this the right time?
I don't believe so. I have neighbors, I have friends that have kids that go to the park every week, that they play their baseball games. And I do believe that money should go towards making it better. But $19 million is I can't even try to figure out where that's going to, when in my community in July, we did for 436 units, we did the entire parking lot for around $600,000. So I'm trying to comprehend where 19 million would go when literally 436 parking spots were done for $600,000. So I can't see where 19 million, to me, that's a bit too much. If it was in the lower end, like you were saying, in the 5 million, then I'd support that and see where the money's going to, because I want to see how the money's being divided and seeing if we're getting the best options. Because to me, there's a lot of frivolous spending, and I believe that we should be checking on how it's being spent, where it's going, and not just throwing money away like that.
Mr. Alvarez, 4 years ago, you and I think just about everybody running for office at the time were pretty vocal against opening the bridges, both on 154th and 170th. I do understand that you had a legal conflict of interest. And I think it's important for the voters of the town to understand exactly not how you would have voted, but why you could not vote. I think you need to explain that so people understand.
So I run a municipal charter school. It's a charter school that the governing body, the governing board chair is the mayor of the city of Hialeah, and the board is made up of the city council. Obviously, they are my direct supervisors, and they are the ones that may have a say in whether renewing my contract or not, being that this was a delicate issue between both municipalities. I received a recommendation even from staff and from the ethics commission to take a seat back on this and let this kind of evolve, so it wouldn't have the possibility of impacting my career in a negative way.
Mr. Diaz, the mayor took a very public position regarding the bridges. We saw him in the media, attending media events, negotiating with the mayor of the city of Hialeah. He was in the newspapers. Did he overstep his boundaries a little bit in terms of his involvement in this deal, which kind of put you all in a little bit of a difficult situation?
I'm going to ask you if you can just to provide a bit more context to the question in terms of, are you asking whether or not he oversold?
Was it the mayor's role to be negotiating this deal with the city of Hialeah? And do you think, quite frankly, that Hialeah got the better end of the deal?
Well, working backwards, absolutely. I think they got the better end of the deal. But, it was the only possible deal that we could get by that point. They had drawn their line in the sand. The deal ultimately was something that the council discussed behind closed doors as part of our executive session for months. It reached a point where we were just, again, hitting the same points and beating a dead horse. So we had reached the point of where we can go. And as far as the mayor's negotiating position, he would always disclose in our meetings what it was that was being negotiated. There was a little bit of a surprise in terms of the announcement of a deal without informing us, where they had that initial radio interview on the bridge. And I think that created a lot of confusion. And then even amongst his colleagues, such as myself, I think there was a little bit of disappointment that prior to going ahead and announcing that on live radio, that he did not at least schedule some kind of meeting with us to let us know that the city of Hialeah had accepted in principle, and also that, letting us know how they were going to do the rollout of this announcement.
Now, most Miami Lakers are under the impression that 154th will remain closed for 10 years. However, if you read the fine print of the actual agreement, there is sufficient there to suggest that if certain improvements are made elsewhere in the transit infrastructure, that there's actually a possibility of 154th opening much sooner than in 10 years. Mr. Garcia, what do you think about that? Did we get hookwinked?
Alex, I've talked to numerous residents, as I've mentioned, talking on thousands of doors on that west side. And people are asking me, whatever you do, make sure that 154th Street Bridge doesn't open. I don't know if you're aware, and the constituents are aware, that bridge was built many years ago, not for the purpose of automobiles. That bridge was intended to have cattle. We're talking the one of 154th Street. It was intended to have cattle pass from one end to the other. I definitely will tell you that if I'm elected, I will do everything in my powers that bridge doesn't open. Whether they call me the pitchfork in Tallahassee, if I have to go there and wear different color ties every other day to talk to whoever I need to, I will do that. Getting back to the 170th bridge, and I'm not going to elaborate much on it because I actually was served. I had to maintain that bridge because that bridge was actually under my supervision at one time.
Would you have voted for the agreement?
No.
No.
No, actually, they put a gag order on me saying, Mr. Garcia, if you continue talking about the bridge, you will be.
Okay, let's ask Mr.
yeah.
Comsana how he feels about
The answer is no on
controversy.
me.
I personally would have voted no against it to not open it. It just creates more influx of traffic when we're already traffic's getting worse here, and it's getting more packed. And like Angela said, I would have been against it.
So we have a few minutes left, and I want to see if we could just very quickly get through a couple of other issues. And let's start with the golf course expansion or redevelopment that was approved a few months ago. Again, both Mr. Digas, you and Mr. Alvarez voted for it. There's concerns in the community about traffic, not sufficient traffic studies, the character of the neighborhood. Mr. Garcia, I think you've been pretty vocal on that issue as well.
Mr. Pinellas,
Let's make these quick answers, please, so we could get through a few more items.
would you like to me to elaborate on that 7-story
Quickly,
skyscraper?
quickly.
Okay, I'm gonna make it brief. That project, if you think we've got problem with traffic now, try to get from the 7-Eleven to Cancun Grill on a Friday afternoon. I see you on a scooter or on a horse or walking. The biggest mistake, and I'll give it to you in a nutshell, the biggest mistake was not doing a traffic study. That is the biggest mistake. And that's the bottom line.
Mr. Comsana, how do you feel about that issue?
I agree with Angela on this subject.
So to Mr. Diaz and Mr. Alvarez, do you think we have an affordable housing problem in Miami Lakes, or is that not an issue that we really should focus on.
Well, before I get there, I do want to take a moment to just to address, the comments, from both the site plan approval and also the bridge agreement, because I think that what's clear is that it's very easy to say no and then not have a plan. I guarantee you, with all due respect, that my opponent and Mr. Garcia are not familiar with the law in this area, especially when it comes to site plan approvals, and how traffic studies do not factor in for anything other than how much the Graham companies in this particular case would pay in what's called a mobility fee. It would not provide a basis in which to shut down the project, which is a violation of property rights under Florida law. In
But
jeopardy.
there's nothing preventing you from doing the traffic study. It's not required, but you're not prevented from doing it,
And
correct?
it goes back to the politicians versus those that are trying to do what's right. The traffic study is a security blanket that would have done nothing. If we already know that the project's going to add more traffic.
Wouldn't it help to build community support?
Absolutely not. Because again, the answer is clear, right? There are those that no matter what you do, the answer is going to be no.
Fair enough. So affordable housing, is that a problem, Mr. Alvarez, in Miami Lakes? People are complaining about the rent all the time.
Affordable housing is a problem in Miami-Dade County. That's
Including Miami Lakes?
including Miami Lakes.
Then why is it that in developments like the one you all just approved, that we don't see any talk or requirements for affordable or workforce development? Are the Grahams exempt from providing that service to the people of Miami Lakes?
I think this is a perfect opportunity to engage in conversations when these elections take place for those elected to work with the Graham Company and seek alternatives to lower housing and other plots of land that they have here. I mean, we've seen what they did with the ER, the Baptist Emergency Room. We're seeing what they're doing with the mixed usage of commercial and residential on Commerce. So I think there's an opportunity to engage the Grahams and see if we can incorporate an element of affordable housing to the town of Miami Lakes, in addition to that gateway golf course and rental space that's going to be built.
Mr. Diaz, real briefly on the issue of affordable housing.
I think that what you're seeing in that project and others that have been approved by prior councils is an increase of supply. And you're in the business, so you understand that one of the biggest drivers of the market right now that's making so unaffordable for rentals and for purchases is we don't have enough inventory out there. So, and between that project, which 59% of the units are one-bedroom units, therefore targeting younger people, I think it actually is going to help to, in its own way, to lower rents or at least stabilize them for young professionals.
So one of the other issues Miami Lakers will be faced, in fact, this will be a county-wide vote, is whether to approve up to an additional a full mill of taxes for teacher salaries, including charter schools. Now, Mr. Alvarez, I understand you had a conflict on the bridges issue, but you run a charter school. Do you have an opinion on this issue?
Yeah, Mayor, it's been a challenge to recruit and retain high quality teachers. I can imagine if this referendum does not pass, that teachers will continue leaving to a different
You
profession.
recommend the yes vote?
I recommend the yes vote on the
Yes or
referendum.
no on,
I recommend the yes vote.
yes or no?
No.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
do you think your party affiliation is important when running for local office?
Run
Your
that-
party affiliation, is that an important issue? Local elections have become more and more partisan over the last decade. Do you think that's important? Is it important for voters to know what party you belong to?
My wife belongs to the opposite. The bird has two wings, right? There's two parties. I get along with both of them, but I don't think that it should interfere with our town. That's why this election is a nonpartisan race. And I get it all the time.
Then-
You know,
then let
I'm
me ask
knocking
you
on
something.
doors and people are asking me.
But sir, you were a Democrat for 10 years. You switched parties in
No, sir.
2016.
I've never been a Democrat, sir.
Then make sure you rectify that.
I was born a Republican.
And just for your information, the public records of Miami-Dade County elections
There is a mistake on that one.
has you as a Democrat
Well, that,
up until 2016. So,
that is a
okay,
mistake.
so that's good that we're clarifying it. You're telling the
Yes.
voters right now that you've
Yes,
always
put it
been,
on the dais
that
that,
you've always
that
been
I
a
am,
Republican.
that is a mistake.
Mr. Comsana, you're a Democrat.
Yes,
You've been a registered, is party affiliation important?
it is. And it's not, it's at the local level. It's more about looking at what the issues are and trying to fix them. I've started truthfully leaning more to independent, just because I know both sides have gotten extreme at certain ends with some topics, but I believe in both sides. I see both sides, and I always try to step in the shoes and speak out to both sides. Funny enough, where I live, all my good friends are all Republicans, and we get along and we talk, and funny enough, half of them or most of them are all going to be voting for me, even though, and some have said this is the first Democrat I'm going to be voting for, because I'm not here to vote based on just what the Democrats say or the Republicans say. I'm voting for what's going to better the community, what's going to fix the issues, whether it's the park, whether it's the streets, or getting police. I'm here to fix and help better the community, whether it's Democrat or Republican. I try to step into the other side's shoes to see.
So should Miami Lakes elections be partisan? Mr. Alvarez, yes or no?
Yes.
They should be partisan.
No,
Should we propose to voters in Miami Lakes to have a strong mayor form of government? Yes or no?
No,
Strong mayor form of government.
Strong what?
Strong mayor form of government. We have a weak mayor, town manager form of government.
The way it is now, with council as it is a weak, you said weak mayor, right? Sorry, I don't.
We currently have a weak mayor, correct?
Okay, I believe yes on that, because on that stance, because it gets more votes towards the council to work together.
Strong mayor, yes or no?
no,
Did I ask you, Mr. Alvarez?
No, no, sir. Strong form of mayoral government with accountability.
Okay, yes, yes or no? You're a strong Republican. Do you believe that we had the right outcome in the presidential election 2 years ago?
I would like to not elaborate on that, and
You don't have an opinion?
I do not.
Did we have a legitimate outcome 2 years ago for the
No.
presidency?
No.
We did not.
yes,
Legitimate presidency, yes.
You agree with the outcome. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give them a round of applause. With that, I'll ask this panel. Thank you very much. You guys did a great job, by the way, all of you. Congratulations and good luck. And now we will ask the second panel. Gino, we'll start right away, or should we take a break? A 5-minute break? Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break.
You're hired for life. Sorry. We're going for the town because you're hired. No, no, don't go there.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's reconvene the debate. And at this time, I would like to ask the candidates for the first panel, and these are the three candidates in council seat number 2, if they would please come forward. We have Raymond Garcia, Ian Anthony Medina, and William G. Perez. Ian, Ray, you're in the middle. Ray's in the middle. Gina, we good to go? Ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get started with the second panel. Let me again welcome the candidates seeking election to seat number 2. This is an open seat. There is no incumbent. I've already introduced the three candidates. First, let me thank the three of you for your willingness to serve and subject yourselves to the rigor of a campaign. Very much appreciated. I'm not sure if you all were here at the beginning of the first session. Do you need me to repeat kind of what some of the ground rules are, or?
I'm okay. I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Yeah. You good?
You're fine? You're good to go? So let us open the session by asking the candidates, since I know, Ray, you've run before, but the other first-time candidates, maybe just start off by telling us a little bit about themselves, why you're running, how long have you lived in Miami Lakes, what are some of your priorities? And Mr. Perez, maybe we'll start with you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. My name's William Perez. I moved to Miami Lakes with my family when I was a young boy in 1974. We were one of the original families that lived in Miami Lakes. Everything around here basically was more cow pasture than people. I went to Miami Lakes Elementary and I went to Miami Lakes Junior High. After college, I joined the Marine Corps and I served the Marine Corps for 32 years. I retired as a full bird colonel. And when I finally got back home, and it took a while, I started volunteering with the town, and I realized that this town that I've loved and lived in so long was in a transition. It was transitioning from a smaller town to a larger kind of community. And I felt that what we needed is somebody who has the experience with proper management, governance, fiscal responsibility, transparency, government ethics, basically someone with leadership experience, someone with a love for this town and a love for this country. And so I decided to once again serve. From a personal point of view, people always ask why I served so long in the Marine Corps and why am I serving again? I was born in Cuba, although I may be the most gringo Cuban you will ever see in your life. And so I look at it as a way of paying back for the freedoms that this country gave us, gave my family. And so I just want to pay back once again. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Medina?
First, thank you all for having me here today.
There's a button.
There we go. All right. First, thank you all for having me here today. It is quite an honor to be here with you today, serving our community so that the voters are better informed when they make their choice in our democracy in November. My name is Ian Anthony Medina, and I'm candidate for Town Council C2 here at Town of Miami Lakes. I decided to run for office to launch my career in politics after graduating from Emory Law School in 2019. During law school, I always had a strong interest in government and the public sector, so I was involved in the Emory Public Interest Committee. Before law school, I went to the University of Florida in Gainesville, where I earned my bachelor's degree in criminology and Spanish. At UF, I took a political science course that made me contemplate a career in politics. Before college, I went to Monsignor Edward Pace High School in Miami Gardens for grades 9 through 12, where I earned my high school diploma with high honors. And before that, I went to Miami Lakes Middle School for grades 6 through 8 and Miami Lakes K through 8 Center for grade 5. I was born in 1993 in Hialeah, and in 1999, when I was 4 years old, my family and I moved to Miami Lakes, where we have been feeling very happy and safe for the past 23 years. I remember playing soccer, football, and baseball as a young and ambitious, privileged child at Miami Lakes Optimist Park. I was a proud Miami Laker then, and I'm a proud Miami Laker now, coming to you transformed from that young boy playing in Miami Lakes Optimist Park to an accomplished adult and an influential and distinguished politician that wants to do good for our community. I am a product of the town of Miami Lakes, and my accomplishments are the town of Miami Lakes accomplishments. I am honored to be here today talking to you as a candidate for the seat of councilman, which holds major prestige for us, our families, and our friends. I applaud all the other candidates and government officials who have also devoted their lives to public service, the most noble cause of any profession. I've lived a short 28 years, but my unique life, coupled with my high quality of life, has instilled in me lessons that other candidates here cannot say they have because they haven't lived my life. I will surely use those life lessons to learn from the past and ensure that I am in a position to accept responsibility, be accountable, and never lose the trust of the people. I promise to never let my constituency down and always have their interests primordially to mine. I have exhibited extraordinary effectiveness, integrity, and competence at all points in my life. I will ensure to achieve common goals with the town council, the mayor, the town clerk, and the lobbyists, because I know that I can help the people of the town of Miami Lakes transform intentions into positive action and visions into reality. I can promise you this because of my disciplined adherence to a set of fundamental principles and skills that characterize highly effective governing bodies. The town of Miami Lakes Town Council's primary responsibility is not just to make policy or just to vote whether to enact it or not. It is to determine and achieve citizens' desires for our community's future. The town of Miami Lakes Town Council, under my leadership, will accept responsibility for shaping the future of our beautiful community by expanding mental horizons to identify and meet the challenges that must be addressed through decisive leadership and goals for the attainment of that future in Miami Lakes. As a strategic leader, I will serve the town of Miami Lakes by always coming at you from the future and taking you back to the future from the present. My leadership adventure serving the United States as councilman for the town of Miami Lakes starts with vision and evolves to defining the strategic issues that must be mastered to achieve that vision.
So thank you very much, Mr. Medina. Mr. Garcia.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I want to thank the town for putting this on. I want to acknowledge some amazing people that have supported me all my life. Ramon and Mercy, my parents, my sister Susie, brother-in-law Tony. Also, 3 of 5 kids. I have 5 children. 3 are here. 1 is in college. And Carolina, if you're listening at home, I hope you feel better, Mama. I love you. Gavin, Roman, Ryan, his sister Alexis. Before I start, I also want to make sure we all understand that the town is putting together, along with Giving Gators, bringing together supplies for the poor people of Lee County and Naples and Fort Myers. So please, if you can come donate dry food or anything you can donate to help them, the town is putting that together for them. My name is Ray Garcia, Mayor, and I've lived in the town or worked in the town or been volunteering in the town for the past 10 years. I'm a happy resident here, and I ran for town council back in 2020. Against Marilyn Ruano, who's in the audience. Hey, Marilyn, how are you? And it was an incredible experience. I was new to running for town council, and only 1 percentage point separated us from victory. It was a positive, wonderful campaign. We showed Miami Lakers how campaigns should be run, and we did it the right way. Miami Lakers want their leaders to respect them, to be respectful to others, to listen to their needs and to answer their needs and to be forthcoming with them. We can disagree with our colleagues, but not be disagreeable. And I'm so happy that we were able to bring that type of positive campaign, not only in 2020, but I want to thank Bill and Ian for also being incredible public servants, stepping up. You guys stepped up. A lot of people don't do that. They stepped up to run. And we've done it in a positive way. It's all about the
We
issues.
sure have.
It's all about the issues with us, and we have not resorted to negativity, and I will never resort to negativity. I'll tell you what I will resort to: listening to the residents. Your quality of life is the most important thing to me. We should be a advocate for you, not a hindrance. If you have an issue, we should be able to help you out and guide you in the right way. Miami Lakes was created to be a wonderful, walkable, sustainable town with a park in every corner, a church every corner, a school in every corner. Bill knows, he's lived here, his family's lived here for a long time. Even if you're here for one day, you're here for 40 years, you love the town. So I pledge to be there for you, to listen to the residents first, put the residents' needs first, do whatever I can to help their quality of life. I'm also very blessed to have the support of the Miami Lakes police officers, and the Police Benevolent Association has endorsed my candidacy. So I am very happy. The officers are here in the back. Whatever you need from me, you're going to get. Okay. My job is to ask you what you need, get out of the way, and let you do your job. And I respect you and thank you for your service. And if we can give them a round of applause to police officers here. Thank you very much. Also, Bill, for serving our country for so long. Please give him a round of applause. And I look forward to answering all your questions, Mayor. So
talking about questions, we're gonna, from now on, we're gonna try to be brief with our answers.
All
We
right.
have a lot to cover.
sure.
And let's start with you, Ray,
Yes,
as
sir.
briefly as possible. 2 years ago, you were supported by the mayor.
Yes, I was.
This year, you also have the support of Mayor Sid.
I
And
do.
I believe, I want to make sure I quote this correctly, Councilmember Rodriguez is supporting your campaign,
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Alvarez,
Yes, sir.
and Councilmember Fernandez.
Absolutely.
There is concern from some members of the community that you are basically just going to become part of this voting block,
Mhm.
that you're not going to be independent. You're going to do whatever you're kind of told to do. Please address that issue.
Absolutely. That is not a concern. I am my own man. I'm 50 years old. I have 5 children. The only person I answer to is my mom and dad. They're still alive right there. I love you so much. And, you know, my mom tells me something, I listen, trust me. But no, I'm my own person. I've been campaigning for 3 years. I think everybody who's met me, whether in the city or neighbors, know that I speak my mind and I give my honest opinion. And if I see something I don't like, I call it out. So you're going to get an independent voice with me always. And I'm always going to put the residents first.
Mr. Medina, I applaud you for, as we all have, we've made our mistakes along the way. We've learned from them and moved forward. So sometimes we have to deal with sensitive and difficult issues, especially when we're running for office. On July 5th of this year, the Miami Herald reported that you were arrested and charged with practicing law without a license, organized scheme to defraud, grand theft, and making false statements, all felonies. At that time, you stated that for years you've heard the voice of God saying that I'm the second Jesus Christ and the Messiah, and compared yourself to civil rights icon Rosa Parks. I think it's important that voters understand your point of view. What happened? Where do you stand with those charges? And anything else you may, and I want to give you as much time as necessary,
Sure.
by the way, because I think it's fair. And I hope you understand these are issues we have to bring out because voters want to know what your position is. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So around April 2017, I started, while during law school, I started hearing voices, particularly the federal government and the voice of God. So I went to a psychiatrist and I started taking medication. When I'm on the medication, I don't hear voices, but it's the voice of God tells me that I'm the second Jesus Christ. And I've taken steps to kind of share it with people, whether they believe it or not. I don't know whether to believe it or not either. I honestly wanted a regular life, but so due to that psychiatric history, I was denied character and fitness from the State Bar of Georgia and the Florida Bar. And my stance is that it violates the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. And what I did was, there's a saying that says, if a law is unfair, it is not just right for a person to disobey it, it is their duty. And I felt that they discriminated against me and oppressed me because of my disability. And I'm just trying to earn a living as a lawyer. I was not able to be a lawyer, so I pivoted into politics. And I'm very happy with my decision to switch, even though I was forced into politics. It's been really rewarding and empowering, and I feel like I'm giving a voice to those that need a voice, and I'm giving people with disabilities a good name. So right now, if you want to know the status of my case, my lawyer just advised me that we're going to do a pretrial intervention, maybe. Hopefully it runs through. I have a wonderful public defender, Vivian Pitchick. If you're watching this, thank you so much for taking my case and for being such a courageous and diligent attorney for me. So hopefully it gets resolved, and I'm really happy with politics. If I don't earn this seat, I plan on figuring out what I do, but I definitely want to stay in the political arena.
Well, good luck with you.
Thank you.
Good luck. Mr. Perez, you've stated here tonight and in some of your campaign literature that you've been a 48-year resident of Miami Lakes. Yet public records from Miami-Dade County elections show that you didn't register to vote until January of 2020, which is 2.5 years ago. Why has it taken you so long to register to vote, and why haven't you participated in elections for all these years?
I'll tell you why. Do you remember General George Marshall, who developed the Marshall Plan?
I know who he is, yes, sir.
Okay. General George Marshall, he was the Secretary of State and developed the Marshall Plan after World War II. When I took the oath as an officer to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and to serve the Commander-in-Chief, what General George Marshall did was he decided not to vote in any presidential or local election while he was serving that oath, because the Commander-in-Chief was elected by the people. Same thing with governors and their military powers, etc., under Title 33. So I chose to follow the rule of General George Marshall and not vote until I retired.
So let me understand, for the hundreds of thousands of military personnel, and I commend you for your service and I thank you, but for the hundreds of thousands of military personnel who do vote.
Yeah, they do. And I encourage them to vote.
They vote, they're overseas, they live in, and they're stationed in places far away from their hometown. Are they doing wrong by voting?
No, it's their personal choice. You know, I chose to decide that the way I will take General George Marshall's example, because when you're a senior officer, you're asked all the time by your Marines, who'd you vote for? I go, you know, I want you to vote, but I will tell you that I'm following the example of General George Marshall by deciding that it's better for folks not to know if I'm partisan this way or partisan that way, and just serve my country and serve whoever is the commander-in-chief.
So what would you tell voters of Miami Lakes who say, well, you haven't participated in the electoral process for all of these years, you didn't even bother to register to vote? What would you tell them? Why should they then in turn, if you've made that decision not to participate, why should they vote for you?
Well, I will tell them this. If they choose to put on a uniform and serve their country in peacetime and in war, I think they have the right to decide whether or not they choose to vote.
Okay. Let's turn to another issue, Mr. Perez, where you and Mr. Garcia are very much at odds on, and that's the park bond issue that will appear on the ballot on November 8th. You've taken a very strong position against the bond issue.
That's correct.
Mr. Garcia, you've taken a strong position in favor of it. I'm going to give you both very briefly a moment to explain your positions, and then obviously I'm going to ask some follow-up questions. Mr. Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I think the park bond issue is a significant investment in our town. and it's one of the biggest in our history. And the residents need to make that choice. I was happy that after 22 years of incorporation, this council and this mayor were the first to actually put that to a vote. The residents asked, and they've always asked, if you're going to make such a major investment in our town, we need to make that decision. The $15 million bond issue as well for stormwater improvements. I believe that should have been also put to the voters. Voters should have a voice, and they should decide these major issues. Now, as far as the park, we incorporated, the residents decided, they voted to incorporate for one major reason. We weren't getting the services from the county. One of the major reasons was the park. 22 years later, if we would have done this 10, 15 years ago, it would have cost us $5 million. We would have done this 5 years ago, it would have cost us $10 million. We're not saving money by waiting. Those of you who know construction know that the longer you wait, the more things cost. Labor costs more, steel, concrete costs more. Now's the time for the residents to make that final decision. And I'm going to, of course, agree and support whatever the residents decide. Now,
Mr.
as
Perez, why
go
do
ahead.
you oppose the bond issue?
Well, there's several issues. First of all, raising taxes during a period of inflation or recession is never a good idea. We already have homeowners who have had their rents raised 25%, food prices gone up 50%, gas went up 40%, but now it's dropping. But still, if you look at the macroeconomics of it, it's not a good idea to raise taxes at this time. Second, you have the joint use agreement between the school board and the town. If you take a look at the joint use agreement, the town basically only owns about 25% sliver of the land that the board owns the rest. And if you take a look at the joint use agreement, you realize in there that, yes, we have a 40-year lease, but really you take a look at the provision dealing with how can you withdraw from the lease. And with 1 year notice, the school board can withdraw from that lease. And the provision dealing with the surrendering of all improvements, so everything we build could go back to the school board at no cost to them. Or in the alternative, they could say, we want you to remove it at the cost of the town. It just seems to me to be fiscally irresponsible during a time of inflation and taxation to improve the property of a landlord, because we're basically a tenant.
Mr. Medina, do you have an opinion on the bond issue?
I do. I support the bond. I think that the park would definitely benefit a lot from it, because it hasn't been renovated at all since I was a little kid. Definitely electronic signage for the counting of baseball home runs or soccer goals. Definitely think that if we have the money and we're an affluent township, we could definitely sustain the tax. While, and another one of my points is that this would be sustainable because under my leadership, I would propose to annex Country Club and Palm Springs North so that we can tax more people and we can lift people out of poverty in those areas that are unincorporated right now.
Mr. Garcia, you've been out there campaigning for the bond issue.
Yes, sir.
I received this door knocker in my house. I'm sure many other of my neighbors did. I think I saw a picture of you on Facebook actually going out and distributing this. Is it misleading to suggest that the average homeowner in Miami Lakes County is going to pay $77 a year for this bond issue based on an assessed value of $254,000? I'm not sure there's a lot of houses left in Miami Lakes that are worth $254,000. Is that misleading?
No, it's not, because it's an average. And the city has put together a calculator where you can put in your address and it'll tell you what you're going to actually pay on a monthly and yearly. And they're also going to account for any raises in interest rates that might come up. So no, absolutely. The town has been very, very transparent. By law, they can't take a side either way. They can give information.
Understand.
So
But- So
Go ahead.
let's assume for a moment that you're correct as it let's assume that you're correct as it relates to the average value of a residential unit, but there's also a lot of commercial units, landlords.
Yep.
business property owners,
Mhm.
are they also going to be paying an average of $77 per year?
No, that'll depend, of course, on their business. However, I've spoken to a lot of businesses here in the town, the Economic Development Committee, and I can tell you what, the majority of businesses want this park to be redeveloped because it's going to bring a lot of people into the town. They're going to shop at their stores. So we were designed as a town with a park in every corner. Our main park, our central park, for the last 22 years, actually more, is rotting and rusting from the inside. It is time to make the decision, either way, yes or no. And I am for allowing the residents to make that decision. And there are two parties, one against and one's for, exercising their democracy like they should and explain why they shouldn't or why they should. And I think that's amazing. We should have as many people out there pumped up about this so then the residents
But
can make the final
your
decision.
opponent makes the case that this is just not the time. One of your opponents, Mr. Perez, says
Sure.
this is just not the time. You have runaway of inflation,
Mhm.
the cost of rent, gas, food,
Sure.
everything's going up. Now you're going to mortgage
All right.
homeowners for
I have a-
30 years?
Listen, the bond is 30 years old. Historically, our economy has 10 or 12 good years and about 2 or 3 downturn years. 90%, 95% of the time this bond is an issue, we're going to be in a good economy. If we say in this country that because in the future there's going to be a downturn in the economy, we're not going to invest in our infrastructure, then we wouldn't have done anything in the United States of America. We wouldn't have built our roads, our bridges, our cities. 95% of the time, we're going to be in a good economy. Plus, the residents are not going to see this in their tax bill to 2024, 2023, 2024. And even the most pessimistic economists say in 2 years, the economy is going to start turning around. So if we stop doing it because we're scared the economy is going to go down, we will never get anything done in this town or this country.
Mr. Medina, you indicated earlier that you support the bond issue. The way it works, it's really just property owners in the town of Miami Lakes who will be paying for this bond issue. Yet there's some information that would suggest that upwards to 50%, if not more, of those who utilize the park don't even live in the town. Is it fair to straddle just property owners in the town with this huge debt for 30 years? Or should we be looking for the school board, the county, and others to contribute towards the cost?
I definitely think the county would benefit a lot from helping us, take a little bit of the cost of this renovation for Miami Lakes Optimist Park. I don't think it's fair that we just give the entire burden on the Miami Lakers, especially when people from other areas come to Miami Lakes to use the park. I don't have a problem with other people coming to Miami Lakes to use the park. I think it's an honor and a great so that they can have a little share of our little safe haven and our heaven. And I'm sure people from other districts and other municipalities think that Miami Lakes is a very nice place to live. So we definitely want to serve other people and not, shut the door on, little kids playing.
Mr. Perez, I coached on those fields for many years. My boys grew up there. Regardless of how we feel about the bond issue, we have to admit that facility needs major improvements with drainage, the dugouts, the concessions. One year I had to almost beg the town to allow for portable toilets closer to the t-ball fields because the kids had to run all the way to the concession stand to use the facility. So I understand your opposition, but my question is, do you think the park needs improvements? And if so, what do you propose that we do about it?
Actually, I've already sent the town manager a list of proposals on this.
Could you share those with us?
Sure. There are several federal and state grants that help fund park improvements. And we have a grants department. And if you take a look at the budget, you can see how much the grants department has been able to produce in the last few years. And quite frankly, they're not producing what they used to produce as far as grant awards. To improve the drainage, and by the way, Mayor, I played on those fields as a kid. So I understand what you're talking about. There was drainage problems even in the 80s. So really the cost is not going to be $19 million. I'm in favor of improving, but let's try to find a way that doesn't use the taxpayers' money at this time. And those grants are out there. And the question is, why isn't our grant department going after those? Is it because of lack of training? Is it because we have a lack of measures of performance, being established by the town manager? What exactly is the issue? Lack of personnel in order for us to be able to utilize the grant program that's out there to fund this.
So talking about taxes, the town council just last week approved the new fiscal year budget for the town. The approval included a millage rate that will result in a 7.5% increase
Right.
in taxes. My question is a basic one to start, Mr. Medina. Again, the bond issue, the teacher pay referendum, inflation, gas, food. Was this the right time for the town council to have approved an increase in taxes, and how would you have voted?
Well, the millage rate decreased, but it was still reflects a 7.5% increase in taxes. So they did decrease the millage rate. So, I mean, they could have decreased it a little more. I think right now what we have to focus on for inflation is to work with state and federal partners and even the private sector to raise wages so that people have more money to spend and they don't feel the brunt of the inflation. We need to include bonuses and try to work with the Federal Reserve to help curb inflation, because it's definitely been really impactful on our community. And
Well, the budget included a 5% cost of living adjustment for town staff, but they amended out the payment of any bonuses. How do you feel about compensating town staff, which would be part of your responsibility as a council member?
I am very liberal when it comes to money. If we compensate and we appreciate our workers, our public servants, it will definitely reflect more on their quality of work and their output serving our town. So I definitely think that the bonuses should have stayed, because it's an incentive for our public servants to continue working diligently. I'm a proponent of big government, which means that I feel that government has a position in society to help better people's lives and living conditions.
Mr. Garcia, how would you have voted on that budget?
Well, I think that, yes, we are in tough times, and I believe that the residents deserve relief. And yes, I was 100% for giving them the 2%. What I'm not for is defunding our police department. Just so people at home.
We're going to get to that in a moment.
Well, let me just,
Well,
well,
we're going to get to that in a
I'm
moment.
talking about the budget right now.
Specifically, I'm talking about the budget and the millage rate.
Okay,
The millage rate was reduced by 2%,
sure.
but it's still a 7.5%
Yes.
increase.
And that's,
How would you have voted on that?
I would have voted exactly the way the council voted. I'll tell you why. That 7% is about.
Well, 2 members voted no.
Well, let me explain why I voted. I would have voted yes. The police department budget, all of our ad valorem taxes go to that police department budget. Their contract, their expenses went up about the same amount as that 7% you talked about. So if we would have rolled back the rate, then we would have defunded and cut the police budget. And I'm never going to do that, for sure. I'm 100%. This council voted to make public safety the #1 priority of this town. The residents have told me that's the #1 priority of this town, and I will never do anything to
So to be
cut the
clear,
police
you were
budget.
okay with the 2% reduction.
I was okay with the 2%.
You would have
reduction.
voted yes on the budget as amended.
I would have, because we have to. Oh,
Mr.
go ahead.
Perez, your feelings on the budget and the millage rate, which resulted in a 7.5% increase in taxes.
I would have voted against it. And I'll tell you why. I'm not too sure, Ray, whether or not our ad valorem taxes goes entirely to police. I mean, there's several line items that are not just police. But
Bill, the majority of our taxes.
well, no, I
almost all
didn't
go
say,
to-
I didn't
go to
say.
the-
that-
Go to the
but
police department.
A substantial portion does. I agree with that, but not all of it. So here's where my take is, all right? We do have inflation, so we have to live in the reality that we have. All right, the cost of living has gone up for everyone. However, let's take a look at the cross the board situation dealing with raises in general for federal employees. You got President Biden recommended a 4.6 raise. Having been a federal employee, I can guarantee you Congress is not going to pass 4.6. They're going to probably pass 3.6. Last year, they got 2.7% raise. So my position was that the town employees should not be in a better position than federal employees. My other position was, if you take a look at Bureau of Labor statistics as to the average household and how much they had to raise, they had somewhere between 3.6 to 4% raise. Everyone is basically living in a deficit because inflation is going much higher. I also believe, and I said it's in the public record, I made a public statement on during the workshop, that the town employees should not be shielded from the same inflation that we all, the taxpayers, are dealing with. So my recommendation was not to reduce the millage rate to a rollback rate, because I recognize that the town employees need to get some type of raise, and I want the raise to be equal to what federal employees would get, so about 3.6 to 4%. And that's
The-
what I stated on the record.
You alluded to the police, Mr. Garcia. Obviously, as we mentioned in the earlier panel, there has been an uptick in crime in the town. There's a lot of concerned citizens right now. Can you, the three of you, give me perhaps just one unique idea that you could share to address the crime issue, Mr. Medina?
Sure. So my unique idea to address the crime issue is lock cops. Have you guys ever been to Walmart and Target and they have the lock cops? It's a machine that is monitoring every parking lot and makes sure that, there aren't any people loitering or, walking around after hours when they're not supposed to. And it works after hours. So you set a time that it's monitoring, and it alerts law enforcement in seconds so that they can respond. And, I feel like that would be a solution. We can put one lock cop in every parking lot in Miami Lakes. And with that, we can also do citizens watch so that people can, keep an eye on the neighbors and each other and make sure that there are any sketchy, characters around in the town of Miami Lakes.
Mr. Perez?
One of the things I would do is talk to the police officer and ask what are the most effective, basically surveillance and reconnaissance technology that we can leverage to be used. For example, we had one of our boundless parks vandalized. And I was surprised to find out that we don't have any kind of motion sensor, lighting, or cameras in our park areas. Those kind of things would be able to alert the police that something's about to happen, that some folks who shouldn't be there are about to be there, or they're committing some crime, and they can probably deploy some kind of quick reaction force in order to address that issue. So, when we're really talking about how do we deter it, then we have to pretty much create a presence even when we're not actually physically present. And you can do that with technology. You can leverage technology to do that.
Very good. Mr. Garcia?
I agree with leveraging technology. We all, in the last 3 years, I've left a couple thousand Ring messages. We all have Ring. I think we should leverage our Ring messages with the residents along with our Miami Lakes Connect app to be able to share information with the town, to be able to identify these areas where crime is happening. The police should have a direct access to that so they can act quickly and address these situations. So that leveraging technology, I agree with Bill, is very important, and we should do everything we can to do that. And also, use the residents. The residents are the eyes and ears of the police, and we can go ahead and leverage that. So I'm in agreement, 100% agreement on that.
One of the responsibilities you will have as a future council member is to assess the performance of the town manager. There was a discussion here on September 13th as to whether to extend his contract for a few months, 5 months, to allow new council members to opine on his performance. But the decision was made to extend the contract for 4 years, and that's being negotiated now. Could you, each of you, share with the voters in the town what your assessment is of the manager, and whether you believe you should have been given an opportunity to chime in on that through Mr. Fernandez's amendment, which was for 5 months?
Sure.
Mr. Perez,
Oh.
why don't you start?
Actually, I do wish Mr. Fernandez's amendment was passed. And I'll tell you why. Because when I took a look at what are the measures of performances for each department, what are the objective, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic goals that they have, time, based goals that they have, there was very few departments that even have them listed. And the other thing from my experience, having been a battalion commander, chief of staff of 27,000 Marines, and dealing with multi-million-dollar budgets in my career, when you deal with civilian employees, and I had several thousand civilian employees when I had logistics, you take a look at their evaluations. There tends to be evaluation inflation. So you just can't rely on evaluations. Everyone's going to get a 5. Everyone's going to get an outstanding. What you got to do is rely on actual measurable goals, measures of performance for each department that is objective, quantifiable, measurable, and specific. And we lack that. And whose responsibility to develop that? The town manager. So I would have preferred to had an opportunity.
Do you have an opinion on the town manager's performance up to date?
Well, I will say this, if you don't have measures of performance, then I really can't tell you,
Fair enough.
except you need to have those.
Mr. Garcia?
I'm under the opinion, and I'm the only candidate up here who's actually worked for a town. I was an executive director for a local town here. Work with city managers, work with councils. I am uniquely qualified to make a decision to see if the town manager is doing a good job. I worked last week. We were filling sandbags, and I think I threw more sand in Ed's face than in the bag. But I know he works hard. He's a good person. I haven't worked with him directly, but I am uniquely qualified to make that decision. And if the council gives me that decision, I'll be happy to make it when I'm elected.
So you don't have an opinion at this time?
I'm sorry.
Do you have an opinion on his performance at this time?
Well, I think as like anything, measurements are very important. I do believe that there's room for improvement, absolutely. But I do believe that I'll be able to make that choice
Mr.
once
Medina?
I'm elected.
I feel that everyone deserves a second chance, and I don't have a problem with anyone that's currently comprising the government of Miami Lakes. I feel that if there are some issues with performance, the town council, which is a strong town council right now, I must admit, is in a good position to do a report and recommendation for the town manager to change either some patterns or work habits. And if it doesn't work out, then we can take further action then. But everyone deserves a second chance, and we're running a really good town here that people envy, or it's kind of enviable to live in. And I want to propel Miami Lakes, further into the future so that we can make better decisions for our citizenry.
Mr. Medina, you mentioned in your earlier comments and in your candidate statement that you favor annexing the area north of the town of Miami Lakes up to Country Club of Miami. Interesting thought. I know Council Member Dieguez has proposed a resolution to annex up to the canal to approximately 170th Street, just north of the Palmetto. You're proposing we go all the way north, basically to county line, right? Country Club of Miami. Could you share with us what your rationale is for that proposal?
So I'm going to assume that the reason why Councilman Dieguez didn't include the area north of 170th Street to 202 Street is because they're trailer parks. I wouldn't exclude them. If I were me, I would include that area, and then I would exercise either the power of eminent domain or try to subsidize some sort of remodeling and renovation of that area so that we can lift people out of poverty.
So, Mr. Garcia, specifically to Mr. Medina's proposal annexation north the county line, or Mr. Dieguez's proposal north to 170th Street, or none at all? What's your feeling on annexation?
Mayor, I think the biggest mistake this town ever made was not to annex the Hialeah Annex. We let that go. We had the right of first refusal and we didn't take it. Hialeah came in, built thousands of homes and businesses, and now we're suffering because of that. We need to control our borders and our destiny. I am for what Councilman Dieguez is looking into annexing that area. First, we're controlling our northern border. Second, we're bringing in a bigger tax base, and the town needs a larger tax base. If we would annex that area over there, then the growth we're seeing here would have happened over there, but more balanced. We would have increased our tax base, and we wouldn't be talking about asking for a bond for stormwater or asking for a bond for the parks. We would have had the tax revenue to do so. We need to think ahead of time. My decision-making is not going to be short-term. It's going to be long-term. I promise you, I'll always think long-term, what's best for the town in the future. And I do agree with that.
Mr. Perez, any comment on annexation?
Well, there's two things about annexing extra areas. You know, when you're dealing with taxation, you have two things you can do. You can raise the tax rate or you can increase the tax base. I'm always in favor of increasing the tax base, so I'll be in favor of what Councilman Dieguez has suggested.
Mr. Garcia, you served on the blasting committee, I believe, for 2 years.
Yes, sir. Almost.
Maybe I speak to some extent for myself, but I think many Miami Lakers share the sentiment that all we've heard for a decade or more is just a bunch of lip service. There's been a lot of meetings. People fly up and to Tallahassee and have a good time, and they meet with legislators. They put it all over Facebook. They commend our state legislators and our state senators. But what's happened? I don't think the residents of this town feel that after almost 20 years of talking about this issue, we've actually done anything to rein in the blasting.
Mayor, I could not disagree more. Miguel Martinez, the chairman of the committee, is sitting right there, and that man has done more for Miami Lakers in the last 3 years when it comes to blasting than anybody in this town. Marilyn Ruano she suggested to start this, and she's always been supportive. We have done what no other committee in Northwest
And
Dade.
how has that improved the
Let me-
quality of life
All right.
of town residents?
The first step is to admit that what the miners are doing is destroying our quality of life, and it's a disgrace. The first step into changing the law is to get the proper data. Without data, we cannot prove our case.
But Mr. Garcia, we've
Well,
been trying to get data for 20 years.
Well,
how much
finally-
longer is it going to take
I'll tell
to
you,
get the data
we finally are getting the data.
after
Why-
20 years? And you're satisfied with that? Mr. Perez, are you
I'm not
satisfied
sa-
with?
whoa, I'm
Mr.
not-
Garcia, hold on.
I'm
I'll get
sorry,
back
Mayor,
to
I
you.
cannot
I'll
be-
get back to you.
No,
Mr.
but this
Perez,
is
are you
super important.
satisfied with
I am
that?
not satisfied at all.
I will get back
Okay,
to you.
all
I
right.
promise. Are you satisfied that we've moved quick enough on the issue of blasting?
Well, I will say two things. When you take a look at the issue of blasting, one of the things I did was I met with Miguel and the blasting committee, and I said, why don't we focus on the most vulnerable who's within the blasting radius? And that's our children. And there's a plethora of evidence, scientific evidence, dealing with the effects of continuous exposure to blasting on the cognitive and neurological development of children. And I go, let's focus on that. And then we talked to Tom Fabrizio, the representative, and we said we should, look at the legislation to adjust the actions of just one. It's just one quarry that's not acting within compliance with what everybody else is doing because they're motivated by greed or whatever they're motivated by. And let's see if we can use that angle, protecting our children, with the fact that we have scientific evidence to back that up already. And and he did a very good job, the chairman. He actually brought the school board facilities director in, and he is concerned. And we also had the teacher of the year who teaches.
So,
in
Mr.
one of our
Perez, I think
schools
that's
come
going to
in.
confuse a lot of residents here. Residents here, I think, want action and they want it now. Are you satisfied, Mr. Benita, that we've done
Well,
enough?
that's going to be
to
big
address-
action, Mr. Mayor.
I will get back to you, Mr. Medina.
I'm not satisfied. I personally am completely against rock mining or any sort of blasting. It's harmful to the ecosystem and it's not sustainable to any global resilience, and it's detrimental. And right now, that it's primarily done for profit seeking. And I would definitely have an initiative to kind of end it. They already excavated enough for a long time. And
Mr. Garcia, you wanted to speak again.
I
What,
do.
what would you do differently now? What,
Well,
what's on the
I need to go
horizon?
back to address what was said. We have done a lot. And I'll tell you, the first thing is finally, we forced, thanks to the chairman's leadership, we forced the state to actually put seismographs in this local area and do a pilot program so we can get real numbers and compare it to the BS that the mining industry is giving us. Second, they establish a database so people can, when they feel a blast, can file a complaint, and they're creating a database with a radius map so we can actually show how far the effects are having on our residents. Now, with that data, our representatives, Tom Fabrizio, Alex Rizzo, Brian Avila, Manny Diaz, who was a senator, is going to take that, try to get it through committee this upcoming session to lower the blasting levels to a level that we do not detect and feel. Also, with that information, we can also allow residents to have relief, legal relief. Right now, residents can't sue. They have to go through some administrative process, and that is unconstitutional.
But
This
why-
has been more
but-
progress, Mayor, than has ever been done
And-
in the
and-
last
and
2
the-
years.
The voters will have the ultimate say on that. They
Oh,
will decide whether in
absolutely.
fact we've made progress, which is what you're claiming.
Mhm.
Many believe we have not. Mr. Perez, is local control the answer? Why is it that Tallahassee has to decide what the blasting levels are here in Miami-Dade County? That's a local issue. You've got legislators who represent, areas totally outside of this community making these decisions for us. Shouldn't that be an issue of local control?
You would think so, but you're a career politician. You know how this goes. And there are state government agencies and federal government agencies willing to give up power? Usually not. So we have to find a different solution that we have within the framework that exists now. We got to live with the solution that we can actually achieve and not live on a solution that's based on hope. Hope is not a course of action. So right now, the solution we have is based upon the new data we've been gathering and based upon the focus on the impacts, the scientific data dealing with the children in the areas of schools and daycare centers right now around there. We have a really good opportunity. We have our legislators energized, and they can draft legislation to just correct the behavior of one quarry and to come into compliance with everyone else.
Mr. Garcia, you took a very vocal position against the opening of 154th Street
Absolutely. Yeah.
at the county commission. But did you agree with the opening of 170th?
I didn't want any of these bridges open, but the reality was the county commission tried to, in the middle of the night, basically ram it down our throats, 170th and 154th. I myself spoke. A lot of the Councilman Marilyn Rowell was there. A lot of residents, councilmen were there, and we spoke and we asked them, hey, wait a second, you can't just do this. Give the mayors time to work this out. They were already discussing the issue. They were already talking about the issue. The main point was we need to give Miami Lakers relief and put Miami Lakers first and not be bullied by a bigger county and a bigger city. So I was against 154th and 170 being open. The reality is,
How would you have voted on the compromise?
I would have voted for the compromise, and I'll tell
Mr.
you.
Perez, would you have voted for the compromise? In the Miami Laker story published this last Friday, you were very vocal in criticizing the Bridges deal. Do you support opening 170th?
Well, I wouldn't support it either one. I'm not in favor of and I read the compromise. And I'm very disappointed with the remedies section. What we can do. Basically, the only remedy we have is to go back to court. There's no mediation, there's no arbitration. So the only remedy we have is the most expensive remedy for the town. And I think whenever you make a deal with somebody and you make a contract with somebody, you should try to have remedies that allow it to not be the most expensive remedy for the town.
So the mayor is supporting Mr. Garcia. The mayor basically orchestrated this compromise position with the city of Hialeah. Do you think the mayor overstepped his bounds on this?
Well, if you take a
he's
look
not
at
a
the town,
strong
if you take
mayor.
a look, if you look, take a look at the town charter and you take a look at the role responsibilities of the mayor, he is supposed to act as a quasi diplomatic role and do negotiations between different government entities. Now, the question is, from what I heard from the previous debate, what Mr. Diegas and Mr. Alvarez stated was he kind of blindsided the town council. So that's the only thing I can fault him for, is he should not be blindsiding the town council.
Mr. Medina, Mr. Garcia used the word bullied. Do you think Miami Lakes was bullied by Hialeah and they got the better end of this deal?
They did definitely get the better end of the deal. And I would have been against opening these bridges unless with one caveat, an idea that I'm throwing out there is also to reduce crime rate and to reduce the amount of people that are using our roads in Miami Lakes as thoroughfares. We can work with SunPass in the state of Florida to put a toll in the major, entrances into the town. And it would be a toll that would be an out of towner toll. So if the license plate is registered out of town, they get tolled $2. But if your license plate is registered in Miami Lakes, you don't get tolled. I think that would solve it. That would solve a lot of it, and it would bring revenue to the town and to the state of Florida.
I assume the three of you have read the town's strategic plan, titled Strategic Plan 2025. There are a couple of areas there that basically get a thumbs down, where they need substantial improvement. Mr. Perez, how would you address some of the deficiencies set forth in that plan?
Biggest deficiency is our stormwater drainage plan. We got $57 million worth of projects that we need to get done. We got about $28 million funded. And to me, that's why I also look at this $19.5 million park bond and wonder, why are we working on that when we have basic needs that need to be met, such as stormwater drainage? We were very fortunate that the hurricane didn't come our way, but even a moderate tropical storm causes massive flooding that we have to pass out sandbags. So yeah, it deserves a thumbs down, it deserves a thumbs
Mr.
down.
Garcia, some of the other highlights of the plan that need addressing in your opinion?
Well, let me just say that the basic needs of the residents have to be addressed first, which is residents tell me every day, flooding, my sidewalks, the streets. Those are the basics. Imagine 2025 is, we're imagining, and people have said, is it a utopia? We're imagining a utopia, but we're setting a bar. It doesn't mean we're going to hit that bar. It doesn't mean we're going to spend all this money on these projects. We have to focus on what residents see every day when they walk out, what they see when their driveways, their sidewalks, safety. So I am not for everything on 2025, but I do think you have to set a bar, you have to set a goal, you have to think better, that we're going to do better as a town, but also be pragmatic and realistic. And I think that's why we're up here. That's why I'm asking for this vote. That's why I want to be your councilman, so I can make the choices and make those decisions that you've asked me to make and balance that out.
Mr. Medina, traffic was the other issue mentioned in the plan as being deficient. Any ideas how you would address it?
Sure. So yeah, to dissuade and deter people from using Miami Lakes as a thoroughfare to get to Broward or to Hialeah, I would definitely also, in addition to the tolls that the town of Miami Lakes residents would be excluded from, I would work with Miami-Dade County to also help us kind of establish residential zone area, which is already established, but kind of to a higher degree and a higher standard, so that people from out of town are dissuaded from coming through Miami Lakes and causing traffic for us.
So let's go through some really quick bunch of questions, quick answers, right?
Sure.
For the most part, a yes or no. The school board referendum to pay an increase for salary to teachers, yes or no?
Yes.
Ray?
Not at this time.
No.
No.
Mr. Perez, what year was the town incorporated?
2000, December 5th.
That is correct. Mr. Medina, how much is a gallon of milk?
A gallon of milk is $3.65.
How about a loaf of bread, Mr. Garcia?
Well, at the CVS right there, it's about $4. So
It's $4. Depends if it's whole wheat, right?
yeah, if it's all weight, exactly.
Strong mayor for the town of Miami Lakes, yes or no?
No,
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 How about partisan elections?
no,
no.
no,
Do you agree with the Supreme Court's recent decision overturning Roe v. Wade?
I agree with it.
I think the state should make that decision.
So you agree with the decision?
I think the state should make that decision, but there has to be, some exceptions for the life of the
Mr.
mother, the life of the child.
Mr. Perez,
yes,
do the Grahams have a responsibility in this town to provide affordable and workforce housing?
yes,
Mr. Garcia,
Yeah, I think they should make more of an effort. Yes.
Mr. Medina,
I don't think that the Graham Company are in that position to do that. I feel that the federal government or the state government should deal with the issue of affordable housing.
how would you rate the job of the mayor, Mr. Perez, on a scale of 1 to 10? Mr. Perez,
5,
Mr. Garcia,
Oh, I think the mayor is a 9.
Mr. Medina.
A 9.
Finally, let's see here. Should the compensation of the mayor and council members be increased from its current level? Mr. Perez,
no.
Mr.
No.
Garcia.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much. Let's give them a round of applause. Gina, final comments or make the final comments? Folks, thank you very much for coming out. Hopefully this was informative. Hopefully it will assist the voters of the town in making their decision come November 8th. Thank you very much and good night.